咁我哋咧已經係
We have reached the appointed time, and we've got a quorum already. For today's meeting, we have 6 items from the government. All were listed on the agenda of the last meeting, and for which we could not complete the scrutiny, or we did not actually start the scrutiny. May I remind members that if you've had direct or indirect pecuniary interest in relation to the items, please act in accordance with our Rule 83 of the Rules of Procedure and disclose the nature of interest before you speak. Also remind members that there are certain rules under Rule 84 of the ROP in regard to direct pecuniary interest and the voting procedure. Number 1, PWSC 2015-16 12, 74 KA construction of West Kowloon government offices. Members are invited to recommend to upgrade this project 74 KA to grade A at the price of $4.7425 billion at money of the day on money of the day basis. Last time we started some questioning. Mr. James Toh, I'd like to follow up on the latest supplementary information provided by the government, and that is the additional A-grade car parking spaces, open-air car parking spaces, 50 of them. In the future, let's suppose that there's a big demand in the community. Can you allow parking on both on two platforms, high and low blocks? Is there a flexibility? Although it's an open-air car park, some are beneath a building structure, or maybe there's a tree there, and then you will not allow parking on a high and low block. Who will take this question? After the WKGO is commissioned, we will conduct a review. If because of a lack of car parking spaces, the community is affected, we would then consider ways and means to increase parking spaces. Mr. Cho asked whether we can provide more at grade spaces. Well, we will not rule this out. This will be considered. But if we are talking about car parking on 2 levels, then we need a mechanical device. Simply put, this will be considered as an option. My rough estimate that they will be able to provide 100 more. And because they are now going to provide 50 more, and the future flexibility is allowed, so I can support this item. We know that recently there's a case involving the Civil Aviation Department. They have a dancing room with mirror panels. So these are you going to provide such a so-called special installations and facilities? So because of this past case, I would like you to clarify that. I wouldn't want to approve this item without knowing that there will be some facilities like those. GPA, well, this is a government offices for various departments. It's not a dedicated office building for a particular department, so all the actually the schedule of accommodation is straightforward and functional. Though we don't have any special facilities like those. Mr. Yip Kwok Him. Now the government is proposing that at the ground level, you would redraw the carriageway for vehicles so that you can increase car parking spaces, 50 of them. Well, if there is a lack of sufficient parking spaces for a government office, it's going to be very problematic. I also hope the government would do something about the harbour building and provide some parking spaces to support the building's operation. I have reservation of designating a particular floor for car parking spaces. And now that this is going to provide a ground floor, I can support the item. And DAB too. Dr. Lo Wai Kwong, for this case, the departments concerned have been doing a lot to increase the number of car parking spaces. This is positive for the future operation in this WKGO. Last time I had a question about accessibility. Can we be given some more elaboration? And that is, what's the pedestrian length with the nearby the MTR station? Is there any possibility of making further improvements? Or would there be flexibility to provide in providing more pedestrian lanes in the future? Mr. Lui, we have taken this up with the Transport Department. They are conducting a study because there are criteria in providing such covered walkways. One of them is the pedestrian flow. According to their estimate, even with the commissioning of the WKGO and the completion of nearby developments by the year 2023, the pedestrian flow will still not be up to the required level. But the Transport Department and the government will be paying attention to future developments and considered what to do if there's a problem. Did you look into the link with the nearby MTR station? Are you going to provide more comfortable environment in that the pedestrian lane should be covered to some extent? We are not able to provide a covered walkway because the criteria are not met, but we would find different ways to make it convenient for pedestrians. If you walk from Yamate MTR station to this building, there is a footbridge. What we're going to do is to install a lift to make it convenient for users. Dr. Low, further questions? No. Does other member wish to ask questions? If not, I'll now put this item to the vote. With those in favor, please raise their hands. Those against? I think the majority of members participating in the vote are in favor of the item. The item is approved. Next item, PWSC 2015-16 4182 GK, Reprovisioning of Food and Environmental Hygiene Department, Sai Street Environmental Hygiene Offices-cum-vehicle depot at the Yen Ming Road, West Kowloon Reclamation Area. This is a recommendation to upgrade the project to Category A at an estimated cost of $1,549.9 million in money of the day prices for the reprovisioning of this facility. On the 11th of November, the government briefed the Food and Environmental Hygiene Committee, and the gist of the discussions has been annexed. Today, for this item, we have a representative from Food and Health Bureau, ASD, FEHD, and Planning Department, Undersecretary for Food and Health. This is a project to be reprovisioned an FEHD depot in Acai Street.
In November last year, as the chairman said, we consulted the panel on food and health at LegCo, and members were supportive of our proposal. The Acai Street Vehicle Depot has been in place for more than 40 years, and after the reprovisioning, we hope to upgrade various facilities to meet the current demand. The existing site of the vehicle depot has snow covers, and it can accommodate 50 vehicles. In terms of traffic, the situation is not satisfactory at the moment. And there is no space in Yau Chin Mong or Sham Shui Po for vehicles, and as such they have to be parked at Cha Guo Leng. They must go. There is unnecessary mileage because of the traveling, and as such air quality and road traffic would be affected. So by reprovisioning the depot to the West Kowloon Reclamation Area, we can allow parking spaces for the vehicles, and there are hawkers at that area, so the new location will be convenient for them. And since 2012, we conducted public consultation at various districts and collected opinion from district representatives. And after the consultation, we improved the traffic routes, and we facilitated multiple site visits for district councils, and we also visited schools. And having heard the views of the district representatives, we improved the traffic and vehicular access, and we consulted the Yau Chin Mong District Council, and the Sham Shui Po District Council had no objections as well. And at the new site at Yen Ming Road, it's located at the waterfront area, and in 2014, on the 12th of February 2014, we consulted the Harbourfront Committee, and hopefully members can also support our proposal. If this proposal is passed at the Finance Committee, hopefully the construction work can commence in 2016, and it can be completed by 2018. Any questions from members on this item? Any comments? Mr. James To, Chairman. The site is located in my district constituency, and I'd like to reflect the views of the residents. First of all, reprovisioning the Acai Street facilities is the collective wish of the Yau Chin Mong residents. Due to historical reasons, this prime lot is being used to build a vehicle depot, which is a waste rather. So myself and the residents are supportive of the reprovisioning. But for the Yen Ming Road site, we are looking at several problems. First of all, the lot is located at the harbourfront. It's just 1 or 2 minutes away from the MTR station. If we use this lot for a vehicle depot, then, well, it's also a prime lot. So you are using one prime lot to replace another. It's not a wise decision. This is a very prime land lots. Of course, the government would say that everyone is aware of the facts, including CY Leung, but there's no reason to support this proposal. I don't think the government has tried its best to locate another land lots, perhaps in a more remote area for this vehicle depot. Historically, the offices are located adjacent to the depot, but there's no direct relationship or connection. You can actually reprovision the offices and vehicle depot separately. The offices are very small. You can reprovision them to a more convenient area, while the depot can go to a more remote area. As such, you wouldn't have to occupy prime land lots. Historically, the offices and depot are located together, but this is not something we have to follow after the reprovisioning. The residents are opposed to the proposal. There are 2 schools nearby. We have a lot of students. We have thousands of students, in fact. They are also located close to the residences. So I think the key is that the government hasn't tried its best to locate the best land lot. The government has provided information to explain that they have looked at 5 pieces of land in Kwai Hing. For these large-scale district facilities, well, let me cite an example of Kwai Ching. There are certain sites under flyovers. Very often the vehicles have to be deployed early in the morning. But for this piece of land, it's located at the harbor front. The location is prime, so it's a waste, in my opinion, and the residents are opposed to it. So perhaps let's have the Deputy Director address this question, and whether the reprovisioning should be done in a prime land lots, and whether the facilities have to be bundled together. Thank you very much for the question. We are very concerned with the issues as well, and we've had multiple meetings with the relevant departments to see if there's any room for improvement. In terms of the venue of the reprovisioning, as we explained at the subcommittee meetings before, we have looked at different land lots. Some are not big enough, and some are even closer to the residences. And as such, we felt that this land lot is suitable for the reprovisioning. And we also met with the Development Bureau, and we felt that this land lot is not suitable for residential developments. It's about 175 meters from the coastline, and it's surrounded by West Kowloon Link roads and warehouses, unloading bays, etc. So in terms of ventilation, if we are to develop residences, we will have problems. And in terms of the location of the vehicle depot, we conducted detailed studies as well. It's impossible to reprovision it to another area because it doesn't solve the existing problem of vehicles commuting between Cha Ko Leng and Ya Chin Mong and Sham Shui Po. And if we reprovision the depot to another district, we would face challenges from residents of those districts. So we have to think about the function of these facilities. Any other questions from members? Mr. To. Chairman, they said that this area is not suitable for residential development, which is very strange. You talked about noise from the West Kowloon Highway. When I was at the Urban Renewal Authority, I had to deal with such issues. So we have to be very meticulous with our design to avoid noises. There are a lot of strange issues, but they cannot be avoided. If this land lot faces the highway, your windows should not face the highway. Whether or not the lot can be used for residential development, well, if you say that it cannot be used for residential developments, you have gone on records today, and you will face a lot of opposition later on. And in terms of ventilation, the schools nearby are low rising, so you shouldn't have any ventilation problems. So I'm very I feel very strange about what you said. The residents are very fair. Originally, the refuse vehicles would pass by the residences, but it has been amended, and now they would travel on West Kowloon Highway instead. This is a big improvement. But at the end of the day, this land lot should not be used for a depot for refuse vehicles. Chairman, I think that's all I can say. I think the other members might not feel the same way as I do, but I feel that it's a big waste to reprovision these facilities at this prime land lot. The government insists to reprovision the facilities in the same district, then I think there's nothing we can do about it if that's what they think. If we look further ahead, the West Kowloon Highway, there are a lot of areas under the flyovers where the refuse vehicle, where refuse facilities are located. We should look at those areas, and they can be used to park refuse vehicles. When you look at the final plan, the Namchang station is nearby. That is a good alternative. I think it's a waste if we insist on this land lot. Undersecretary, anything to add? No, I have nothing to add. I'd like to thank Mr. To for his comments. Principal Assistant Secretary, Mr. Chow. In terms of identifying the site of Yen Ming Road, we have actually looked at more than 10 land lots in Yau Chim Mong and Shan Shui Po. All the other land lots are even closer to residential developments. Chairman, I'm not talking about Yau Chim Mong. I'd like to talk about the Yen Ming Road site. Even if it's used for other residential developments, the development density would be low. According to enclosure 12, you can see what it looks like. To the south of the site, it's the harbor, and when you look at the surrounding buildings, we have the Sir Alice Kaduri Secondary School, and further on we have another primary school as well as other government facilities. They are all low-density developments. When we talk about the plot ratio, they range from 0.15 to 0.89. If we are to build anything in that area, we have to align with the low-rise buildings in the area. And according to the ventilation assessment we conducted, we saw that this area is the main outlet for southwesterly breezes, and even if we agree to the construction of such facilities, we have imposed certain restrictions, and that is in the first and second floor car parks, they must adopt an open design to allow the sea breeze to come into the building and to the southeastern side of the building. Some adjustments must be made as well. So if this site is used for other developments, they must be low density developments.
Mr. Albert Chan, Chairman. I, to some extent, agree with the criticism raised by Mr. To. First, in terms of land use planning and also land use for specific sites, we have to look at the overall development needs. Well, the government usually just adopt a quick fix solution, and whether it's suitable as far as the land use is concerned, it's usually problematic. As I have criticized the government for the Kai-Tak sports stadium. Nowhere in the world would such a prime site, big prime site, be used for a sports facility in the middle of a town center. And I also beg to differ with Mr. Thomas Chow. Is it better to have one single block or some other building design? Well, it's difficult to generalize. You may have to assess the design by using wind tunnels. Although this is a low-rise building structure, it's going to take up the entire stretch. It would affect air ventilation at the ground level. If what you say is correct, Mr. Chow, you should veto the application for a big building to be erected near the waterfront at Meifu. And look at Hong Kong, how tall the buildings are. So if the logic fits you, you adopt it. If not, you talk about something else. As the chairman of the Town Planning Board, this is contradictory. You are contradicting yourself. I don't want to stop the item from being passed, but I would say that it's wrong in terms of planning. Mr. Chow, your name has been mentioned. Well, we have to look at the justifications for this Yen Ming Road site. Well, we have conducted an assessment. The prevailing wind direction is southwesterly. So we believe that this should be allowed. Let me quote another example. In Tsuen Wan, there are 50-odd-story buildings at the waterfront from Chartres Road to Chung On Street. It's very crowded near the waterfront. If you say the southwesterly is the prevailing wind and you have to have low-rise buildings, what about the Tsuen Wan? 7 blocks of tall buildings, 40 to 50 stories, have been erected there. And the Tsuen Wan air ventilation has been stifled. And now here you talk about good ventilation. What about other residents? Are they second-class citizens? I want to put this on record. I think I've said what I want to say. Anything else? Also, please put on record that for the Tsuen Wan development, there was another air ventilation assessment, and there was a protracted discussion with the district council. Well, let's have a paper from the permanent secretary after the meeting. If they want to continue with the discussion, I'm happy to comply. Let's have another debate before the FC meeting. Can we be given a paper as requested? Yes. I would like the Secretariat to record Mr. Chow's remarks in a verbatim record. This will be good reference information when we have to consider other developments in the future that will form a very good information basis for future discussions. Mr. Albert Chan, I hope the government or the Secretariat can help us like this, and that is the design approved by the Town Planning Board for the Chunwan site they have just talked about and compare it with this site. I think it would be good reference for members. All right, the Permanent Secretary will give us another paper before the FC meeting. Any other questions? If not, I'll now put this item to the vote. So those in favor, please raise your hand. Those against, please raise your hands. I think members participating in the vote, the majority are in favor of this item. This item is passed. We're now on number 3, Head 705, Civil Engineering, PWSC, 2015-16-13, 233DS Sludge Treatment Facilities. The item recommends an increase of $299 million of the approved estimate of this project 233DS, and that is from $5.1544 billion to $5.3643 billion. There was a consultation with the environmental panel on the 15th of December 2014. Members of the panel agreed that this item be submitted to the PWSC. At the request of the members, supplementary information was provided to the panel on the 6th of March 2015. The gist of the discussion has been summarized in the annex for members' reference. For this item, we have a representative from the Environmental Bureau and the EPD. So over to you, Ms. Look, Undersecretary. As you've said, this was discussed by the environmental panel. And I have to stress that we're not asking for additional funding because of mistakes or omissions, but it's just because the cost inflation, which cannot be covered by the contingency provision. So we'd like to get additional funding so that we can complete the item. Mr. Tam Yu Chung, is there a delay? Has there been a delay? I've heard that in December we were offered the chance to have a visit. The building structure were already completed, but then the arrangement could not be implemented. It seems that you have not been able to treat this sludge up to the required standard during the trial runs. What are the problems identified during the trial run? On the question of delay, actually there are two phases. If we say that for the first phase there was a delay of about a year, so for the second phase there was some reorganization. The second phase will be completed at the end of 2017. So on the whole, the project will be completed ahead of schedule. As for the trial run, I'll ask my colleague to say something about that. Mr. Chen Chi-Kwong, on the question of the progress of this project. We have entered the first phase of actual operation. Mr. Tam Yu Chung referred to the initial delay in the first phase because of the manpower problems faced by the contractor. Now we are actually in the operational stage, the first phase of operation, and we need time to adjust the machines and equipment and make them work better. As far as operational standards, so far they are satisfactory. When can a visit be arranged for us? You promised to arrange a visit for us and also for Tuen Mun District Council. So you're now 5 months behind schedule. When can you arrange a visit? Yes, that can be arranged. In the first phase, the delay with regard to the construction has passed. We are able to arrange a visit. All right, interest has been expressed. Please arrange the visit as ASAP. You are now in the trial run. Have you got parameters, data that can tell you that it's up to the design standard, it's up to your standard? Mr. Chan, I think for sludge treatment facilities, people are most concerned about the emission from the chimney. Actually, the monitoring is continuous. We will continuously monitor the standards with regard to the emission. In the initial stage, a lot would depend on how we adjust the equipment. At that time, the contractor needed some time to make adjustments to make sure that at all times the emission will not be over the standards. It's just like a new car. In the initial running in periods, there may be short periods of exceedance, and when that happened, we will stop the operation and make adjustments so as to bring down the emission levels. That's what I talk about when I said we need the time to make adjustments. Was it serious? You talk about exceedance of the standards during certain times, or it was not serious. As I said, the emission was monitored continuously around the clock. Once we identify a problem, we adjusted the equipment and the parameters to prevent recurrence of exceedance. Mr. Albert Chan, I want to ask a question again on the budget overspending. It will be completed in 2017. Starting late last year, prices of various materials have come down, some up to 50%. I'm talking about iron, copper, and so on and so forth. So the upsurge in costs that we saw a few years ago has eased, and actually in some cases the trend has been reversed. So when you complete this project, you may not have to spend all the additional budget. Prices can fall. Actually, some prices have fallen. So it would be, it may not be in line with what you estimate in this paper. Undersecretary, I would like to defer to my colleague. Assistant Director, what the member has raised a certain scenario. We know we have to understand that adjustment to project cost is a cumulative phenomena. We've been told that the index, the cost index, has risen. We haven't completed the project, and the price adjustments will be fixed here. But future project costs will be affected by past cost increase. So future changes will only affect what is over and above the current price level. But we need to cover past increases for future works. As for the projection for the future mentioned by the member, well, this is about cost estimation by government. According to the latest information from the Treasury, we estimate that in the coming 2 years, project costs would increase by 6% per annum, and that's on the basis that we estimate the cost adjustment that we would need to do in the future? Well, Chairman, in enclosure 1, we can see that for some periods there were cost increases, projected cost increases. But this year, material costs have decreased. I know that you face a pressure in labor costs. For this year, maybe the departments can tell us the actual cost level this year. Is it continue on the rising trend, or has it increase been eased?
I hope the government can tell us about the reality so that members are in the know. If you consider 2014, when we brought the proposal to the environmental panel, our expected price increase was 6%. But at this moment, we are talking about 2015. So the actual figure is 4.9%. So there is a light drop. So basically, you've seen the drop in 2014, and the drop in 2015 would be even greater. If your estimation was from 6% to decrease from 6% to 4.9 last year, then the drop this year would be even bigger. I think this we have already seen a drop last year, and will continue this year and probably into the next year as well. So at the end, you might not have to spend the $200 million at all. Assistant Director, is there any chance you won't have to spend the money? I'm not trying to, reject the $200 million. I'm just trying to see what it's happening right now. We have to look at the real figures. But as you said, we need to set aside some money for contingencies, and we have already lowered the contingency fee or the contingency costs after the APA adjustment. We have reserved $200 million as contingency, and we need to. The fee can be used for miscellaneous items like arbitration and claims. So for safety, we have decided to set aside some money as a reserve. Part of the price adjustment can be taken from the contingency pool, and part of it would require approval at this subcommittee. The situation has improved in 2014, and the cost would be even lower this year and until 2017. But the estimates of the government are higher than the original estimates, but this is no longer the case. I think the FSTV has to look at the actual situation. They should not make it a habit to increase the estimates. So Mr. Chan's view is taken on record. Would the Bureau for Finance and Financial Services and the Treasury like to respond? We would conduct a review every 6 months, and we will provide the latest figures to the PWSC, and we would consider a variety of factors before we adjust the figure. Ms. Emily Lau, I support this proposal, but I have a question on the overwhelming emissions. Apparently, they would deal with the excessive emissions by stopping the plant, or I'd just like to know whether they would stop the plant altogether until further adjustments are made, and whether this arrangement also applies to other similar facilities. Assistant Director. Thank you very much. It's a very simple question, actually. Our incinerators are equipped with advanced designs, so in terms of emissions, the emission levels will be monitored 24 hours a day. and we would use both mechanical and manual monitoring. And once the emission levels goes over the limit, the machines will stop. Apart from mechanical adjustments, since the sludge is constantly being incinerated, the incineration would stop if the emission levels are too high, and it would not restart until adjustments are made. You said advanced technologies are being deployed. All pollutant-emitting plants would have a similar mechanism, right? Yes, in terms of chimney emissions, this is our requirement. Chairman, I hope visits can be arranged as soon as possible for LegCo and district councillors. Mr. Low Kwok, I support the upgrade of this project, or the increase in approved project estimate in this proposal, and the trend rates of changes in the prices are considered, and will be the expenditure would be granted on a need basis. And for the $200 million, whether or not we would spend it, I think it's meaningless to discuss whether we can spend it all. And like other members, my main concern is the operation of the sludge treatment facilities and whether or not they're up to standard. I think under the current technology, we shouldn't see a lot of problems, and the design of the facilities should be environmental friendly enough. And it's important to accumulate experience and make necessary adjustments. As I understand, the work is ongoing and some of the facilities are already in operation. How many untended projects do we have at the moment? I think most facilities have already been tendered. What about the number of untended facilities? Assistant Director, if Mr. Low is referring to the sludge treatment facilities, the entire project, all the facilities under the contract, all the facilities have been covered in the contracts, and we wouldn't need to conduct any further tendering for these treatment facilities. The entire project amounts to $5.3 billion. Have all the facilities been tendered? Yes. Thank you, Chairman. I don't have any further questions. Any other questions from members? If not, I would put this item to the vote. Those who are in favor, please raise your hands. Those who are against, please raise your hands. I think the majority of the voting members are in favor of this project, and as such, it's approved. Let's enter item 4 of the agenda, head 707, New Townsend Urban Area Development, paper PWSC number 10, 666CL, Formation Roads and Drains in Area 54, Tuen Mun Phase 1, and 681CL, Formation Roads and Drains in Area 54, Tuen Mun Phase 2. The fourth and fifth papers in otherwise PWSC number 10 and 11 are related to the foundation works in Area 54 or Tuen Mun to support the public housing and other developments in the area. They would be discussed together. If there are no objections from members, I recommended PWSC to discuss these two items together, and the voting would be done separately. So in other words, for PWSC, paper 10 and 11 would be discussed together but voted upon separately. Any objections? If not, this is the arrangement. And the PWSC paper 10 6XCL, it recommends the upgrading of part of 6XCL entitled Formation Roads and Drains in Area 54, Phase 1, Stage 1 works to Category A at an estimated cost of $493.4 million. And for PWSC paper 11, it recommends the upgrading of part of 6A1CL called Formation Roads and Drains in Area 54, Phase 2, Stages 3 and 4A to Category A at an estimated cost of $553.1 million. And the government already consulted the panel development, and the panel recommended discussion at the PWSC. And according to recommendation of the panel, the government has already provided supplementary information, and the key notes of discussion have been tabled. And with regards to PWSC paper 10, we have representatives from the Civil Engineering Development Department and the Housing Department. And for paper 11, we have representatives from the Water Supplies Department. Perhaps paper number 10 first. Mr. Chung, Director of Civil Engineering and Development, to walk us through the paper first. Thank you, Chairman. Members, the CEDD and WSD would like to present two projects related to Formation Roads and Drains in Area 54, Tuen Mun, and we seek the members' recommendation for upgrading of parts of the projects. The details are listed in the papers. And the three projects are 666CL, entitled Formation Roads and Drains in Area 54, Tuen Mun, Phase 1, Stage 1 works, and item 681CL, the upgrading of part of 681CL, entitled Formation Roads and Drains in Area 54, Tuen Mun, Phase 2, Stages 3 and 4A works. And the item number 99 WC, entitled Water Supply to Northwestern Tuen Mun, Phase 2. And the Water Supplies Department would commission the CDD to construct the water supply facilities. The government's policy is to maintain long-term housing supply, and the land lots in Area 54 Tuen Mun is one of the ideal land lots, and the developments in Area 55 will be conducted in phases. Site formation would be conducted in two land lots, and the housing department will provide about 4,000 public housing flats to meet the demand. And site formation would also be done at another site to develop a community hall and sports center to satisfy community needs. And site formation is involved as well as relevant infrastructure works, including road works, water supply works, and so on. In total, these three projects would amount to $1.13 billion. And after the funding approval, we will open the tendering exercise as soon as possible. Hopefully, it can commence within 2015. Hopefully, members can support our funding application. With regards to paper 11, would the Director of Water Supplies walk us through? As the Director of CED said, our projects would align with the site formation and other works. The water mains would be laid on roads managed by the CDD, and we have commissioned the CDD in the project to avoid separate contractors working at the same sites. So I will now open up the floor for questions from members. those who have raised their hands. Mr. Tam Yu Chong, Mr. Albert Chan, Mr. Tam first. We certainly approve these two funding applications. We have to work on site formation, water mains, and so on. And with the high demand for public residential flats, we look forward to having more public residential developments as soon as possible to help those on the waiting list. And under paragraph 15 on public consultation, we saw that the Two Moon Road Committee and Environmental Hygiene District Development Committee under the Two Moon District Council have certain concerns with the future developments, especially on the road usage and traffic.
But
of course, these are not directly related to the funding application. But it's important that we do planning properly. When we have the PLH units, there may be traffic problems, or there may be problems arising from poor preparation and planning. So what are you going to do to address these local concerns? Who will take this question? The development in Area 54 of Two Moon has been supported by TIA, Transport Impact Assessment. We are going to use public transport like buses and GMB for outbound transport service. The Transport Department has also conducted a review with the expanded capacity of Two Moon Highway. It would be good enough to accommodate traffic for up to at least 2026. And the MTRC has also been monitoring the service level of the West Rail, and adjustments are being made. The train service frequency has been upgraded as necessary. Now they have 7 compartments for each train. They have a plan to increase the number to 8 cars per train. That would increase the capacity by at least 14%. So for outbound transport service for Area 54 in Two Moon, we have already made plans. I don't think these are sufficient. I would like to continue to follow up the matter, because it's already very busy. There's a big demand for public transport. If you increase the population, the problem is going to worsen. So I would like the departments to pay attention to this problem. CEDD, we would reflect the views of the member to the Transport Department. I believe they would monitor the demand on public transport closely. Mr. Albert Chan, in principle, I support the projects. I want to offer 2 comments. First, road design. Site 1 and Site 1A of Area 52, there are 2 roundabouts. All along, I don't like roundabouts. They are accident prone, and they can cause congestion. And I'm particularly concerned about the increase in Area 54, Area 54. It's like Yatung Estate. It's an increase for the bus terminus, for the housing estate, and for other motorists. On a daily basis, you can see dangerous occurrences. There's an interface conflict between interface problem because of the conflict between pedestrians and cars. But for the 11A in Area 54, it's like what we find in Yatung Estate. I don't want to see the problems repeated. For 11A in Area 54, you have just one single entrance. Would there be other spur roads in the future? It can easily lead to congestion, affecting the residents there. It's at the foot of a hill. When the West Rail was built, and when there's a heavy downpour, the rainstorm drains would be blocked, leading to the serious flooding of villages nearby. I would like the CEDD to closely monitor the work of the contractor so that we can flooding of villages whenever there's a heavy downpour. Director of CEDD. Let me say something about drainage during the construction phase. I thank Mr. Chen for his suggestions. We will certainly incorporate the relevant clauses in the agreement, in the contract, mandating that the contractor would provide suitable drainage facilities and to prevent flooding during the construction phase of villages. When it comes to the road design, linking Site 1 and 1A, the road design is up to the current standards. But anyway, we would take a look again because of the comments offered by Mr. Chen to see if we can further improve the design. But all in all, the design is up to the current standard. I think it's better that you have different ingresses, different entrances for buses and for private cars. You should consider this factor. Please do not repeat past mistakes. And just one more point. This hill is tall. When there's heavy rain, it's going to be different from other locations. Flooding did occur at the foothill for good reasons. You have to consider the particular topography of this site. Dr. Lo Wai Kuo, Chairman, I want to say that I very much support the two projects in relation to formation, roads and drains in Area 54, Tuen Mun. We need to commence the works quickly because they have to do with public rental housing development and community facilities. I'm a member of the Housing Authority, therefore I'm aware of the proposed development here. Of course, there's no pecuniary interest involved. I have a question about noise barrier. Part of it, 640 meters of 1 to 1.5 meters in height, and then there's 1.5 meters of foundation. Some part of it has only got the foundation because there's a school site nearby, next to it. There's no definite timetable for the school project. Therefore,
you just provide the foundation so as to avoid road excavation in the future. That's of course wise. But then I want to know why you might as well build a noise barrier. Because if you do it in the future, you may affect the traffic at the time. Although you don't need to build the foundation again. If your policy is to have a school there, and therefore you want to provide a noise barrier, you might as well do it now. Would there be other factors that may affect the design of this the noise barrier that you might need in the future? That's why you build the foundation? Are there reasons for that? And we have been told that as a matter of policy, school may not need to have this noise barrier. They may have got their own noise barrier installations. They may have double glazed windows. But the double glazed windows are not the same as a noise barrier along the road. So I would like to get some explanations. Director of CED, we're only going to provide the foundation for a particular part of the location for the noise barrier. Because what we want to protect now is a site that will be used for a school in the future. Dr. Low is correct that we have two options. One, we build the noise barrier now. And two, is the one we propose. What is the merit of doing this as we propose? If we build a noise barrier now, we need to maintain the noise barrier. And second, in the future, on this site reserved for a school, and if we already provide a noise barrier in front of it to a certain extent, it would affect the future site formation work because the noise barrier is already erected. And Dr. Low is also concerned that in the future, when we build a noise barrier, there may be some traffic impact. Once the foundation is built, when we need to actually erect the noise barrier, the works will be relatively simple, and the road space required would be less, and time required is relatively short. So I believe in the future, when we have to build the noise barrier, the impact is going to be limited. While some schools protected by noise barriers, but not others, whether there's a need to have to build a noise barrier to protect a school depends on the actual local conditions, topography, the noise generated by traffic, and also the EIA requirement. That would inform us whether a noise barrier will be needed. Dr. Low, I asked a question about why you build the foundation without building the noise barrier itself. Well, I think they've got good reasons. You may affect the works on the school site in the future. I can accept this explanation. What kind of design will be adopted by the school, or whether there are further development, further changes to the design of noise barrier in the future, we'll have to wait and see. I think we should discuss on another occasion whether a noise barrier should be erected to protect a school. I do think members have views on this. Ms. Emily Lau, I think I want to talk about the cycle path, but it's fragmented. It's in the one of the enclosure. I think it's marked in blue. It's in the housing estate, but not outside of it. I know the government policy is not to allow cycling as a means of transport. So what is the purpose of this cycle track? In the plan, you can see that marked in blue is a cycle track. You may see that the line is broken at certain locations. For example, at a road junction, we are just saying that cyclists should dismount and cross the road, walking and carrying the bicycle.
And whether or not these cycle tracks can be linked to other cycle tracks in the network, it really depends on whether we have other tracks in the network. If not, the cycle track can only extend to the edge of the site. So are you saying that cyclists can only cycle for 3 minutes? You have to, at the end of the track, you have to cross the road and walk a certain distance before you can continue. So in terms of design, you should not break the track into two. And you should not ask the cyclists to cross the road. Even when they cross the road, they have to, make turns and before they can continue. I think this is not your fault. It's it's about the overall design. But now the track stopped in the midway, and you should provide parking spaces for bikes, I think. So what's the purpose of having cycle track given the existing design? So do you just want to give the residents some exercise, or is this like a gym? Is it director of CD? We have plans to introduce more cycle tracks. But since a lot of areas are already developed, we have to retrofit certain tracks. We have to take it step by step. And in the new development areas, we will introduce cycle tracks. In the future, we will introduce more phase by phase in order to come up with a more complete cycle network. So why is the cycle track broken? You can refer to enclosure 1. For the area in light blue, why is the track broken into 2 parts, even though they are located in the estate? When you look at the enclosure, when you look at the location plan, in Site 1 and 1A, we have proposed a cycle track in light blue, and at the road junction, cyclists have to cross the road before continuing on the other part of the track. So you can see that cyclists can go from Site 1 to the site of Po Tin Chun. Of course, certain sections would be broken because they have to cross the road. The pink paths are pedestrian paths. If you have cycle paths, then it should be continuous. I'm not an expert, but I see it very strange. Can you give it some thought? Perhaps I would add one point. The proposed cycle track can be linked to Site 2. The housing department will construct parking lots for bikes and After they dismount, they can reach the light rail stations, and as such, bikes can serve as a mode of transportation in this district. Do you mean that you can cycle to light rail stations? Where is this shown on the map? We haven't marked Site 2 with color in our enclosure, but in enclosure 3 in the upper right corner, you can see Site 2. Along the road L54A, the north of L54A, the path is connected all the way to Site 2. And at Site 2, there will be parking lots for bikes. So in other words, residents in this area can cycle to light rail stations, and there will be parking lots. They can park their bikes at Site 2, and they can walk to the nearby light rail station. So that's more like it. When you present at the Finance Committee, can you give us a more complete map so we understand the situation with the cycle tracks and the parking lots? District councils value the use of bikes as a mode of transport. So they can only reach light rail stations or even MTR stations. It's close to Siu Hong Estate, and there's a West Rail MTR station at Siu Hong. So please give us the information at the Finance Committee. Dr. K. Kwok, in principle, I support this project, but I have a few questions. First of all, on the project costs and overspending, Chairman, as you all know, we deal with a lot of cases of overspending. The government's estimations are often way off the mark, and due to the inaccurate estimations, we have to discuss it at the Finance Committee. Has the government learned any lessons by improving the project estimations, and are any measures in place to avoid the government overspending? And we have to fell over 700 trees in this project. And Chairman, as you know, Hong Kong has a pathetic policy for protecting trees, and the tree planting schemes are they fall way below expectation, and there's a lack of management for trees, and residents are not consulted, and they just arbitrarily replant the trees. And for this project, they have to fell 2,000 trees. And will you replant those trees in areas preferred by the residents? Are you going to follow the government's policy? And are you going to ignore those trees? Director of Civil Engineering Development, in terms of cost estimation, we have conducted reviews for similar projects in the past. We have taken reference from similar projects in the past. And we have done extra work on risk management for this project. This time, we will adopt an NEC contract mode. And according to the government's experience in the past, what does NEC stand for? New engineering contracts. During the subcommittee meeting last time, we introduced this mode of contract, and hopefully under NEC, if we detect any risk, we can solve the problems as soon as possible, and at the end we can control the construction costs. And for the trees, most affected trees are located in sites 1 and 1A. There are a lot of trees in those sites. If we are to conduct site formation for public housing development, it's inevitable that we have to remove those trees. When we review these trees, we saw that they are densely planted and they are generally unhealthy. After removing those trees or felling those trees, we would conduct extra greening work at site 54, at area 54. The greening ratio is about 30% in terms of the overall construction area, and we will plant appropriate trees in order to foster a better environment for living. He said the government will have some coordination. Hopefully you can give us some relevant papers at the Finance Committee. So I'd like to waste no more time on this. And you mentioned NEC contracts. So in other words, you will be notified of risk in advance. But in terms of overspending or project estimates, do you think you can minimize the government's losses? NEC is a new contract mode, and there are no precedents to refer to. Can you guarantee that overspending can be minimized? What's your target? Director of CED. The government does have experience in the past with NEC. Let's say for a project, if we encounter unforeseeable circumstances under the new NEC arrangement, the contractor and government would take a collaborative stance to solve the problems. If the contractor encounters problems which would lead to an increase in project estimate or cause any delays, the contractor will notify the government as soon as possible, and as such, we can work together to solve these problems as soon as possible. From our past experience, by solving the problems ahead of time, they would not deteriorate, and they would not have big impacts on the project costs and timeline. So under NEC, hopefully we can do better to contain risks and in turn better manage our costs. Director, I have a question as well. Under the new engineering contracts, before this project at Area 54 of Tuen Mun, has the government adopted this contract mode in other works in the past? Director. we have had some pilot projects on NEC, and we have 19 such pilot projects, and 3 of them has been completed. And the initial views are very positive. And at the beginning, we tested the new mode with smaller works. And in terms of the timelines, those works were completed slightly ahead of time. So the initial response is positive. The UK has adopted NEC contracts for quite some time, and their responses have been positive as well.
Chairman, can the Permanent Secretary give us some information or other examples of applying NEC? Well, we are concerned about overspending for the Lin Tong project, 18 months, 50% over the budget. We don't want to see such serious overspending happening again. There are 2 particularly serious cases. One, Lin Tong. Second, Central Wan Chai bypass, which has also suffered a serious problem of overspending. Please give us a paper and tell us if we adopt this approach, would the overspending with Lin Tong and Central Wan Chai bypass be avoided? Would have been avoided? Well, NEC is a new approach. You have now applied it to 19 projects. 3 have been completed. I think at the appropriate juncture, you are going to conduct a review, and I don't know whether in the case of Housing Authority, Housing Department, there are many sites adopting a similar approach. I don't know whether if that's the case. Maybe you can also learn from the experience of Housing Authority or Housing Department when they handle their projects. I don't want to have details. Please provide information in your paper. Well, members are very interested in this topic. We would provide an elaborate explanation in due course. Dr. Hannah Wong, Annex 3, site earmarked for school site. There's a NBF. You are going to build a foundation of the noise barrier first, and then when the school is built, you are going to actually erect the noise barrier. Is that the case? I welcome this measure. Has the government changed its policy? Because previously, when we look at a school near the highway, Tuen Mun Highway, noise barrier was not provided, saying that the noise mitigation measures will only just protect the residences, but not schools. Well, actually, Ms. Emily Lau asked a similar question. But anyway, can we have a reply from the Permanent Secretary? Last time the discussion was about a project along Tuen Mun Highway. It was a retrofitting exercise. That is to say, building a noise barrier was to be provided after the school had been built. We have a program whereby schools affected by noise barriers, noise impact will be provided with a retrofitted noise barrier. But now we're talking about a newly planned road. And of course, for a newly planned road, we have to conduct an EIA. One of the requirements under the EIA is to make sure that the designated projects will not bring about unacceptable environmental impacts to neighboring users. So for a new road, if the assessment is that it may environmentally affect other sites, then suitable mitigation measures will have to be taken, such as the provision of a noise barrier. The school has not yet been built. The road is a new road, and that's why in the EIA, in the design, we have to provide the noise barrier. I welcome this. I want to ask a question about paragraph 27. The site area is close to Siuhangchun and Kowloon White sites of archaeological interest. What archaeological interests are we talking about? You have done some preliminary work. I think this is the same with Sha Tin Central Link. When you started to dig, you didn't know that there would be a lot of Song Dynasty relics. Director of CED, when we conducted the study, we took a preliminary view, and there was no important archaeological sites identified, historic sites identified. But we are going to also to take precautionary measures. If we identify relics or archaeological sites during the works period, we will inform the AMO so that appropriate follow-up action can be taken. If we discover anything of archaeological interest, we will take such measures. What is meant by sites of archaeological interest? Can I be given a reply from the Development Bureau? We don't have anyone from the Development Bureau. Permanent Secretary? Permanent Secretary is here. Mr. Chow, or where? I'll take this question. Mr. Horn, I cannot provide a direct and immediate answer in respect of Kowloon White sites, whether there were any archaeological digs in the past. My colleagues may have some information. Mr. Lee, yes, Mr. Anthony Yuen. From what we have learned from the AMO, Siuhangchun and Kowloon White have been designated as relic sites or relic sites of archaeological interest. When we did the investigation on the site, fragments of Qing dynasty ceramics were found. We didn't discover any sites of archaeological interest as such. But during the works period, we closely monitor the programs to see if we discover any relic or artifact. If so, we would inform the AMO so that follow-up action can be taken. I hope before they go to the FC, they can tell us the destination of Siuhangchun and Kowloon White sites of archaeological interest by the AMO, and please tell us the discoveries made so far, and also the basis of the destination by the AMO. We don't want to stop the project in the middle of the course, and then the cost would increase. We don't have any more information to offer today. We'll go back and liaise with the AMO as regards why they had to conduct the investigation in the past. Okay, please provide supplementary information. If members have no further questions for these two papers, now I will now first of all put to the vote PWSC 2015-16 number 10. Would those in favor please raise your hands? Those against please raise their hands. I think the majority of members who have voted are in favor of this item. This item is approved. And now put PWSC 2015-16 11 to the vote. Would those in favor please raise your hands? Those against please raise your hands. I think the majority of members who have voted are in favor of this item. The item is approved. We'll now move on to item 6, the last item for the day. PWSC 2015-16 5, Head 705-183D out. Refurbishment and upgrading of Sha-Tin transfer stations. Members are invited to recommend to the FC the upgrading of 183DR to Category A and an estimated cost of 137.1 million in money of the day prices. And on the 25th of February 2015, the environmental panel was consulted. Members gave their support for this project. The gist of the discussion has been tabled for members' reference. For this item, we have Undersecretary for the Environment and Assistant Director from the EPD. Over to you, Ms. Low. But this is a regular item for upgrading. You can see on page 2, under small f, paragraph 3, small f, bracket E. There's a new installation, new facility to handle bulky waste, usually timber. There's a new facility for handling bulky waste. I know some members are interested in this. My colleagues from the technical department can explain. All right, the floor is now open for members to raise questions. Those who would like to offer comments or raise questions, please raise your hands. Mr. Albert Chan. The government started to design such transfer stations in the 80s, but the policy is outdated. In the past years, I've been asking the government to make it mandatory to separate and recycle at source, so as to reduce waste. We started with this mode of waste transfer. It said that waste will be compressed and then transferred to landfills. We are backward in handling waste. Look at other cities, San Francisco, and UK cities, and even mainland cities. They would incinerate waste at high temperature so that they can achieve a zero landfilling. I'm against the item, the funding proposal, because I'm against the policy. Is there a need for a reply to your questions? No, because the same points have been made over and over in the past. Their concepts are outdated. They have backward ideas. We are wasting our money. Other cities have achieved no landfilling, and now you're asking me to approve funding so that you can increase the scale of landfilling. I believe the permanent secretary, well, if she wants to have an argument, so be it. If she tries to prolong the argument, this item may not get passed today. I don't want to have an argument or a quarrel. I just want to talk about the functions of Sha Tin transfer stations. First of all, we do landfilling, and then there will be also the waste to energy facility. A transfer station would handle waste from different sources, commercial or domestic sources. The waste will be collected and then collectively handled in a transfer station so that it can be shipped to the final destination. Without transfer stations, domestic waste and commercial waste would give rise to other nuisances. You can look at this as a transport system.
According to paragraph 5 of the paper, the waste would be put in containers and be disposed in the new territory's landfill. So we are still using landfills. So this practice of waste management is extremely outdated. It's a waste of our resources, and it's a waste of money. And we have to pay if you dispose waste at landfills. So internationally, compared with other countries, it's very outdated, and it's not cost-effective as well. So both in terms of cost-effectiveness, environmental considerations, this is not worth supporting. Next, Dr. Ken Chen. I support this paper. And when dealing with this kind of transfer stations, we have to consider the hundreds of tons of timber every day, and they can be recycled. There is a contract in place at Tuen Mun's Eco Park to deal with recycling of these materials. So I saw that this has been mentioned in paragraph 6 of the paper. Certain facilities will be introduced to chop up certain domestic waste like timber, and they would be transferred to recyclers. And I welcome this proposal. So, however, we still have to iron out certain logistic issues in terms of transporting the waste to Eco Park. And I recently met a representative from the West Kowloon transfer station. If hundreds of tons of timber are being taken to landfills every day, then they will be overloaded very soon. So before submitting the proposal to the Finance Committee, can the government offer more information? You cannot expect the waste to be to disappear after they arrive at the transfer stations, because everyone knows that this is not the fact. I hope you can also let the FC members know how you can tackle timber recycling. Undersecretary. At this transfer station, there are facilities to chop up the timber, and this has been mentioned under paragraph 3E and paragraph 6. But in order to do that, the timber is here. How can they make use of the waste? We have requested operators to follow a specific mode. However, we did not turn to tendering. We could have attracted tenderers, but we decided to use another mode because tendering might not be appropriate here. So I hope the Secretary can make a bigger effort. I hope we can facilitate the logistics network to handle the recycling of timber. And after chopping up the timber, they should not be wasted. That's all from me. I support this proposal, and I hope it can be approved today. Ms. Emily Lau. Chairman, I also support this proposal. But I have a question with regards to waste separation and recycling. Can this transfer station, perform these functions? There are some news reports today that the waste charging scheme will be pushed back to 2017, and with the implementation of the 3 landfills and incinerator, other environmental initiatives might be slowed down, and a lot of people are very disappointed. But in terms of waste separation and recycling, can you play a more active role? Undersecretary, I'd like to use this opportunity to clarify our stance. Our permanent secretary is also here. She might also add to that. Under the current timeline, we have to propose a relatively complicated legislation in front of LegCo, and waste charging is an important part of our work. We have sought the SDC, and we already have a consensus on the way forward. In order to put it on paper by way of legislation, it's a challenge for us. All along, I've told the Green groups that I don't think something can be done before the current session of Legislative Council. We might have to wait till the next session, and the current term administration will end in June 2017. So the timeline really depends on LegCo. After the legislation is passed, during the implementation, well, there is still some time before the implementation. It might be a matter of months. So the implementation date might be sometime after we are all gone. So this is a rather optimistic timeline already. I think you have to explain on other occasions to the public and Green groups. Because the general impression that you are trying to delay or slow down things, you have to let us know that the government is being very active in promoting waste reduction. A lot of public members understand there's a need for more work, so we should speed it up. But coming back to the paper, can the facilities at the transfer station facilitate waste reduction, recycling, or separation? Assistant Director. At the Sha Tin transfer station, we would mainly deal with combined waste. As you know, separation of waste at source is the most effective means to recycle these wastes. Apart from refurbishing these transfer stations, in terms of waste separation at source, we have stepped up our efforts. For instance, we will promote a clean recycling movement, and we hope the public can work with us to enhance the quality of recycled materials at the recycling bins. And if we can reduce the waste at source, and we can ease the load on transfer stations. 1 or 2 years ago, we visited the facility to see how you perform waste separation. But now you are not doing any separation at source. I'm very confused. Assistant Director, if I'm taking correctly, 1 or 2 years ago, Emily Lau and other legislators had an inspection on waste reduction at source. We conducted a survey at that time. The public wanted us to know how the types of material or the quantities of each type of material we collect every year. Those wastes are already combined, and our workers had to carefully separate those wastes before statistics could be obtained. and that's why we can announce the waste statistics every year. But if we are to separate the waste en masse, we have to work on separation at source, whether it's domestic or commercial facilities or buildings. We have to make use of recycling bins, and the public also has to contribute. They have to help us separate the waste before disposing them, and the remaining waste can be handled at our facility. So waste separation at source is the most important. We are at 10:25 p.m. We have 3 more members who wish to speak. Mr. Loy Kwok, Chen Yun Han. I think I propose extending the meeting by 15 minutes. Any objection? Mr. Loy Kwok. Thank you, Chairman. I support the refurbishment and upgrading of Sha Tin Transfer Station. As some members have mentioned, they are particularly supportive of the bulky waste treatment facility within the station. Such bulky waste treatment facilities are important in different cities. I visited Osaka there was a beautiful waste treatment factory. They could handle 900 tons of waste per day by incineration, and they can also handle 170 tons of bulky waste, including bicycle waste and so on. So by introducing a facility which can chop up domestic waste like timber, this proposal is certainly worth supporting. I'd like to know the waste treatment capacity of this facility, and how can we promote this facility to other transfer stations. I think we should enhance the management of useful recyclables, and we should even introduce mandatory recycling in order to ease the loads of the landfills. And if we have a waste-to-energy incinerator later, we should not burn useful recyclables if we can put them to better use. Can you tell us about the capacity? Assistant Director. For the bulky waste treatment facility, the daily capacity is about 150 tons per day. And the capacity would be enough to deal with the timber received by the Sha Tin Transfer Station. Will this be extended or promoted in other districts? If we are to introduce such facility, we have to look at the situation at each transfer station. We have to see whether they receive enough timber and whether they have enough space for the facility. Apart from the introduction of the facility in Sha Tin Transfer Station, we will also introduce it in the West Kowloon Transfer Station to deal with bulky waste like timber boards. So we have confirmed the introduction of the facility at these 2 stations, and for other transfer stations, if the situation demands, or after reviewing the amounts of timber received, if the situation warrants it, we would also introduce the treatment facility. Ms. Helena Wang. I also support this proposal. I hope this bulky waste treatment facility can be introduced in other transfer stations as well to deal with domestic waste like timber. At the Finance Committee, I hope you can further elaborate how you will deal with the timber waste and where they would end up eventually. I agree that waste separation and recycling are important. We visited South Korea. Their construction waste were separated in detail into timber, metals, etc. But right now, I don't think we are doing something like that. At construction sites, waste were taken in lumps, and they contain glass, stones, timber, concrete. They were all mixed up, and they are all taken to landfills. Does the government have any arrangement in place to separate the construction waste, like timber and other materials? Are there any measures or legal provisions?
Yeah.
Under Secretary, well, we have a charging scheme for construction waste, but that doesn't mean that things are ideal in Hong Kong. We are now considering the level of charge. It was 2006 when we set the first charge, and then at first the drop was significantly. Now a number of years has passed. We're talking to the sector to see if the charge can be adjusted. I'm not talking about the charging scheme of construction waste. I'm talking about separation of construction waste. Why can't we do it if South Korea can do it? We should separate bricks, for example, from timber, and then they just pay for disposal in a landfill. I don't think you would take away the timber from the mixed waste for shedding. You don't have the manpower. You should make it mandatory that when they dispose of construction waste, they should do the separation first. There are two types. Some construction waste is collected on the site, and they will do some separation there, but you need space. And then there's another type of construction waste that is renovation waste. Waste generated by renovating offices or homes. That will be more difficult. We are still considering the way forward for Hong Kong in that regard. Ms. Chen Yunhan, you have to think about the way forward. We have been talking about these things for more than 10 years. Actually, Hong Kong people have been very patient. We have had problems with these recycling bins. But the government has not attached sufficient importance to this policy. It's important to have good separation at source. The government has not done a good job. But it doesn't mean that I will not support the paper, because what has to be done has to be done. No, waste can give rise to older problems. So residents are concerned that the residents will be affected by odor when waste is transported. There's going to be a housing estate in Area 36C. So the refuse collection vehicles should be sealed, and then there should be an upper limit on the number of RCPs. And you're going to handle timber there. And there's a similar facility in Cheung Kwan O. I support the proposed installation. But we were told that for the other facility, it would be mainly for timber. But what's the relationship with that one and this one? When we consulted the Sha Tin District Council, district councillors raised the same concerns mentioned here by Ms. Chen Yunhan. We have responded to the Sha Tin District Council in respect of those queries, As for the conversion of RCPs into the sealed operational mode, the subsidy has been provided. We have retrofitted the cover and the seepage prevention tank for 330 RCPs. So we are not going to see any RCP with an open compartment. We have provided the subsidy to retrofit such features to the contractors. The question is whether they are going to make good use of the retrofitted RCPs. We have also amended the law that if these RCPs are to take waste to our transport station or landfills, they must be equipped in this way before they are allowed in or before they are in compliance with the law. When they come at the landfills of our transport stations, we would conduct irregular or random inspections. If they are not operating the RCP properly, we can prosecute them. That's in respect of refuse collection vehicles. As for the Sha Tin facility second stage at Shed Moon, after the refurbishment of this transport station, we are not enhancing the capacity. It will be the same design capacity. And we're also going to improve communication with this relevant sector through SMS. If on a particular day waste is particularly higher in quantity, then we would tell them to reschedule the operations so that there will not be a sudden surge of RCVs on the roads. What about Zhangguanou? Zhangguanou and the relationship of Zhangguanou facility with this one? For Zhangguanou facility, we only receive construction waste in the future. We're going to submit a proposal on the commencement date of this arrangement to the environmental affairs panel. So it's not done now. It's not done yet. Do members have other questions? If not, I'll put this item to the vote. Would those in favor please raise your hands? Those against, please raise your hands. I think the majority of members who have voted on this item are in favor of the item. The item is approved. Members, in our 2-hour meeting, we approved 6 items, 6 projects from the government. We believe such items will be submitted to the FC on the 12th of for consideration at its meeting on the 12th of June. Do members wish to vote on any item separately? For items for which we want more information, let's hope that they would provide the information, and we would take a look, and then if there are no further questions, we will not ask for split voting. In other words, there's no request to vote on any particular item separately, but that would depend on the provision of additional information. Meeting's adjourned.